Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. A special guest, and he's a good friend. I know Alan for a long time, and I just love this guy, man. So I said it in the prior, when we tried to do the prior take on this, but your superpower is your authenticity. Like, you are just one of the most genuine, straight shooting guys. And I think that's why you have such a loyal following in the commercial and residential real estate markets, man.
Thank you.
And when I asked you to describe yourself, you said you're not your average broker.
Yeah.
So what's the average broker like, Alan, for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to knock too many people or knock the industry itself. I just feel like the industry has changed so much, and that there's so many really big players out there that have been doing this for a very long time, and they continue to find success. And with a new guy like myself, or a newer guy like myself, and a more boutique brokerage like ourselves, we got to find a way to make ourselves different than everybody else. And I feel like one of the ways we do that is that we are your full service brokerage. We are, no job is too small. No property is too small. I'm, 7-8 years in, and I'm still doing 1,000 square foot leases because it puts food on the table. And I feel like you have a couple of big name brokers out there and brokerages that maybe they've earned it, quote unquote, but I feel like a lot of them turn away business because it's not that big fish, or it's not that big paycheck. And myself and my team, we find out that these small deals eventually turn out to be bigger deals in the future. And I think that that's something that my mentor told me. And that's something that I pride myself on, is that it doesn't matter who you are, how much experience you are, how big the deal is, we'll help you. And I think another thing that sets us apart from everybody else is that I feel personally like a lot of brokerages, they sort of like, once you sign on the line, it's done, right? Like, my job is done. And I don't feel like that, right? Like, I have an emotional attachment to my clients, to my tenants. We've been doing a lot of retail leasing, and I feel like, it doesn't stop at the line. You got to help these people in every facet of their business. And I know it sounds like, we're asking for trouble like that, but really, I feel like that's going to set us apart. Like, if you need a plumber, if you need a sign guy, if you need a lawyer, whatever you need, we got. So
social media person,
video
guy.
Yeah. Like a motorcycle, right?
No, but I think what you're talking about is, and it does set you apart. So what I've noticed, even in my field, is when something's new and hot, all of a sudden every attorney's trying to do it, right? So the internet, and then social media, and now you got lawyers dancing on TikTok. Like, I'm not going to do that, but I think that you have to do both. Yeah. Right. I think that while the internet is ultimately very scalable and social media is super scalable, and I know that you don't really do too much of it, I do think that there's both sides to it. I know you're a master networker. I know you're on the road from, like 7 a.m. till wee hours of the night, running down deals, chasing deals, and making deals. And your business model is not all that different from a lot of the personal injury law firms anyway, where there are certain injury firms that are boutique. They only want these big, 7, 8, and 9-figure cases. And I get that. But then there's another school of thought that you take everything in and you have a mechanism and infrastructure to deal with all of it, because that one client who might have a $25,000 case today could be the $1 million case tomorrow, right?
100%.
So there's two schools of thought with that. I don't think either is wrong, as long as you have infrastructure, the systems, and the people to work it well in whatever you're taking in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think that your marketing model is one that's the new trend, right? Everybody jumped on the internet and volume. And now everybody is saying, well, if they're smart, they're saying client service is where it's at. Yeah. You want good marketing? Client service is the best marketing there is. I am here with Jason Hennessey.
So anyway, I just kind of built a personal brand over the years. And part of that is just, keeping your reputation and having good character and treating people the way in which you want to be treated, right? Because there's a lot of people that come in the industry, they screw a bunch of people over and you never see them again. You know what I mean? I never want that. Like, I never want to show up to a conference and think, oh, I screwed this person over, or this person's upset at me, or I owe this person money, so just staying true to just character. And then just every day, just showing up and doing podcasts like this and making short videos and promoting it so that I'm always top of mind.
How has AI changed the traditional SEO strategies, keyword, content, link building, technical SEO? How has that all been impacted? I mean, there's best practices, right?
Yeah.
But in your opinion, how has it impacted traditional SEO?
So I've been spending a lot of time kind of studying this. And so it's one of those things, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where there's like 3 different Spider-Mans and they're all pointing at each other, right?
Yeah.
And then they take off their hat and it's like, SEO is AEO and GEO, right? It's kind of the same thing. Like, there's nobody that's going to graduate law school today that will have a competitive advantage over an attorney that's been around for 30 years just because they know how to prompt better on ChatGPT, right? I mean, in terms of the historical value of what you've been doing over 30 years. So in the world of SEO, like, the things that are important is publishing content that satisfies the intent of Google searches, building out topical authority, right? You can't be all things to all people, right? You want to kind of be a subject matter expert in what you do, building out like authoritative links to your website, right? So making sure that Super Lawyers is linking back to you, making sure that you got an Abo profile, making sure that you're on Justia, making sure that all of that kind of stuff. Chamber of Commerce, Better Business, there's all these sites that are kind of important in the eyes of like Google. And that's how you're able to rank high on Google, right? If you do all of those things right, in addition to making sure that there's not a lot of technical issues with your website too, right? So that's that. In terms of like optimizing for ChatGPT, a lot of the same things that you're doing over here is also what's feeding over here too, right?
Right.
So like when you type in like, who's the best personal injury lawyer in Dallas, right? They're looking at things like the Google reviews. They're looking at things like your Yelp reviews. They're looking at things like, oh wait, Super Lawyers is a very trusted peer-to-peer network. We trust that, right? So if this lawyer's here, then that's a signal. The only difference between ChatGPT and Google is that Google mostly rewards links, right? Links are the currency. That's kind of what boosts the authority. Whereas ChatGPT also will give you credit for like mentions. So like if the USA does a story about the best personal injury lawyers in Dallas and you're referenced there, even though that there's no link, you're getting more credit in the ChatGPT.
So there's a lot of weight, I would also imagine, to independent press coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. There's got to be tremendous weight in that.
100%.
The best practices for SEO are the best practices in general for digital marketing.
It is. Yep. That's exactly right. You kind of summarized it very well there.
So you said earlier that you've got these ideas and stuff that you're thinking about for utilizing AI to now scale and get more creative. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you recommend listeners do on that side? Like, because you see all of these crazy advertisements now, lead gen advertisements that aren't law firms. Mm-hmm. I got $95,000 in a week and don't tell your lawyer. Just, there's a lot of craziness in the personal injury space. Yeah. And people like me are like, how do you choose what's real, what's not, and what to do while you're still trying to run the business and make sure that you're servicing the clients as well?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to experimentation. You have a lot of people in your network. I've got a lot of people in my network. You talk to people, you meet people, you learn about new, services, you learn about new tools. And so if somebody that is trusted vouches for this new service or something, you kind of double click and you might do that, right? If somebody says, hey, I'm killing it in pay-per-click, okay, maybe you try pay-per-click. Maybe you take a $10,000 budget and you try it. And if you can actually actually make that profitable, well, then just continue to feed that channel. If you find a marketing partner that can get you cases by way of this new lead initiative that they've got, maybe you do some experimentation, you take a budget, and if you can make it profitable, you go with it, right? It might not. Like sometimes I tell people, like you experiment with like pay-per-click only to realize that you shouldn't be doing pay-per-click, right. It took you $10,000 to realize that it's not going to be a profitable venture because, there's no way $10,000 can compete with a firm that's spending $500,000 per month, right? On pay-per-click, right? So there's things like that. We're doing things like, we're taking like full websites now and we're using like OpenAI to translate the websites into multiple languages. So that's giving us a competitive advantage where we actually take the full SEO strategy, the way it was implemented, and basically clones it in a multiple language, right? So all the internal links stay, everything kind of stays. And so you got clients that were not getting any traffic at all in Spanish that all of a sudden now they're getting 3,000, 5,000 visits per month.
Oh, wow.
And they're having to hire like a legal intake person that speaks Spanish or a legal intake person that speaks Polish or Portuguese, right? So you can kind of do that using like AI. That's like one of the things that we're doing, always looking at ways to kind of innovate, I guess,
And that's pretty high velocity. I mean, you're talking about this speed. Mm-hmm. One of the things I love about the AI wave and even the wave of M&A that's going on in legal and the hedge fund money and all of that stuff is it's moving so fast that it's going to force change on the entire industry.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Free market at its finest, right? Like true economist studies will look back on this decades from now and see like AI is changing by the minute. I find it so fascinating. So you're still in the SEO space, digital space, you're still talking to clients all the time. What mistakes are still being made when it comes to SEO or digital strategy by law firm owners in, let's say, the sub 5 million level?
Yeah. So I'd say one is you can't assume that your SEO partner or vendor is 100% of the solution. Right? Like when we work with law firms, like we manage expectations up front. We let them know, hey, listen, we're going to develop strategies. We're going to, spend a great deal of time looking at like competitive research. We'll write the content. We'll do some of the link building. But there's things that you need to do as a business owner, right, to actually help with the success of the campaign, right? A, provide good quality legal services, right? Can I get you to commit to that, right? Okay.
Right. Shouldn't have to be said, but yes, you have to say that.
Yeah, right. Because if we're doing a great job and you've gotten 6 one-star reviews this week, like there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to get you to rank in that map pack. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so that's part of it, B, like I'm going to give you homework, right? I might find that, one of your competitors just, became a sponsor of the Little League team, here. And I might say, hey, why don't you go spend $100 and get that same sponsorship so that we can get the same link that your competitor has? Or why don't we get you on the Better Business Bureau because your competitors are, like things like that. So we show up every meeting with homework for our clients and we hold our clients accountable. Producing a video. Hey, Thomas, listen, when I filled out the form on your website, it just took me to a thank you page, right? I want to have you create a video where you tell the client, thanking them for filling out a form and let them know what's going to happen next with their case, right? Manage the expectations. So like little things like that, always trying to get just a little edge, trying to be 1% better, right? And so that's really what we do. And I think every good marketing agency needs to kind of get the support and buy-in from them as well.
I like that because even the example you just gave, it's that little personal touch versus just a standing thank you page where a client's like, okay, now what?
Yeah,
now what's going to happen?
They're going to go contact the next law firm. Like, why?
And it's something so simple.
Yeah.
So simple. It's going to sound crazy, but one of my most effective marketing strategies for anybody listening to this is I've just always tried to help other lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? I took a friend of mine to a very significant opportunity. She's a highly specialized lawyer. I wanted her to be a highly specialized trial lawyer in Florida. Mm-hmm. We drove 2 hours each way.
Wow.
I got nothing out of it except the introduction that would help him
Yeah.
in his practice and her in hers. I've just always done that, but my business has consistently grown by doing stuff like that, that give back philosophy. It's still fundamental at the end of this. AI, robots, agents, all of it. If you're good to people and you're transparent, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. The business keeps coming in. The phones keep ringing. It may look different. It may sound different, but it will keep growing. It will keep growing.
Yeah, the laws of karma, right? There's good karma and there's bad karma, right? And I'm a big believer in that, and if you do good, you get good, right? And so I'm the same way, I will always go out of my way. I'm a connector, I will introduce two people that I know can benefit from their knowing each other. And I don't have any motive at all in doing that. I just kind of like to do that. And good things come back to you as a result of you doing that. And so I think that's awesome. And the other thing that I like to do too is just be vulnerable. And, like on LinkedIn, like a lot of my post is where I'm just kind of making maybe my message, you know what I mean? Right. There's power in that, right? Talking about, that time that I almost went bankrupt, but, I was able to kind of pull out of it and, like stuff like that. Just talk about like not only your success, like it's one thing to kind of post a photo of your Rolex in front of your Lamborghini, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like whatever that is, right? That's what I think the younger kids are doing these days.
What do you think 2026, your biggest focus is, and what do you like predicting as like the next iteration of marketing online, in person, whatever you think the big wave is for 26?
Yeah. First of all, I'd get down to the basics, the stuff that you were doing back in 2019, you know what I mean? Like making sure that you've got a good intake, right? That you're responding to the leads that you're getting, that you're following up, that, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times people are looking at the future so fast that they just neglect the blocking and the tackling, right? So I would definitely start there, right? Because, marketing is a good solution that fixes problems, but you have leaky holes in the bucket. Like, what are you doing, right? So I'd say that.
Right.
I think people should be building more personal brands. I think spending more time building out your personal brand. Don't hide behind the firm. A lot of times people don't really, remember the firm. They remember the person. Any business, whether it's Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, right? I mean, usually there's always a person that you can kind of associate with the company. And so you want to kind of be that person at your company or at your firm. And so that's kind of the model that I followed. And I think people just need to get comfortable with it. I know some people might not be comfortable with that.
I think you have to get comfortable with it. Look, there's a lot of people that are never going to take that advice, but it's not even so much that it has to be video, but you got to show people who you are, because people don't want to refer cases to a firm. They want to know they got a person.
That's right.
Right. Or so like with LinkedIn, there's always that real lawyers don't give out their cell phone. And I was up at school for a while, right? Like that's what my old business coach program used to tell us. Everybody has my cell phone now. People are posting it online as we speak in comments for med-mal attorneys.
Yeah.
Right. Now, mind you, I'm not the attorney doing the work. The attorneys in my firm are doing it and they're excellent. They love the work.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love, which is making sure people are connected.
That's
right.
To
me, to the firm. And I think like it's a huge takeaway. So I don't want to move past what you just said for 2026. The emphasis should be you have to have a personal brand, no matter how big your firm is, right? Quick break to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is supported by Tona Law, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at tonalaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. Brian Glass, discuss the right way to approach outsourcing to free you up and why the focus on customer service is so important.
Yeah. So let me start with that. The focus on customer service. It is really hard to compete in the market on I am the best lawyer, because how the hell does anybody ever know, right? And so I don't compete on that. I compete on you're going to have the best client service experience with my firm than you have not only with any law firm, but with any business that you come into contact with. And we do that in a couple of different ways. Number one is automation. So even before the outsourcing is automation. So we use Lead Docket and CasePeer and Hona to do 3 different things. Like Lead Docket makes sure we know where the case is coming from, and really quickly we're getting back to anybody that calls or fills out a web form, because the number one thing in a personal injury firm is getting back to somebody really, really quickly and moving them to the next step, whether that's I can help you or I can't help you or I need some more information. And then with CasePeer, we've got our whole case map or case plan planned out. So any auto accident case that comes through the office, listen, yes, every case is a little bit different, but they all pretty much rhyme, right? And so the processes are going to be exactly the same. And so now, rather than having a paralegal or an assistant who's got to remember all of the things that happen in any given case, right? They just get tasks, and either you do them or you don't do them. And we have accountability around how long did it take for those things to get done, or did they not get done? And then the third one is Hona. I don't know if you guys use that, but they describe themselves as
We've looked at it. Yeah, we've looked at it. Yeah.
So they describe themselves as Domino's Pizza Tracker for your legal case. Every time your case moves to a next stage, the client gets a little push notification with a message from you about what happens in the demand stage and with frequently asked questions and things like that. And I met Matt McClellan, who's one of the founders of that company, down at National Trial Lawyers a couple of years ago. And I was doing this anyway. I had shot these videos of like, here's what happens in a demand stage. Now, okay, now we're negotiating your case. Here's what to expect next. And we'd uploaded them to Vimeo, and we were texting them manually to clients. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. And so what those 3 things do is now we have standardized the operations in the case. And the last one, the Hona, is in addition. It is not a replacement of your team reaching out and saying, here's what's going on in the case, but it is another place for them to look. Because listen, it's stressful when a lawyer calls you about your case to tell you what's going on and you don't internalize everything that they said, right? And so having a FAQ page and having a set of videos that they can go back and look at after we get off the call, oh, that is, okay, that makes sense. That reduces the number of calls that come back, and it reduces the number of questions that are coming back. The other piece that you asked about is outsourcing. So we outsource all of our medical records collection now to the Philippines. That's all done overseas. And I outsource my social media and my YouTube video production to the Philippines. We have a guy that does that.
Let's switch gears now for Great Legal Marketing, because I've been familiar with the organization. It's been around forever. Your dad was the founder, right?
Yes.
And he still plays a big role in it. I know he's speaking a lot or whatever, but now you're the president.
Great Legal Marketing is the same thing. Listen, we both want the same thing. Like, what really excites us is the coaching and the teaching portion of it. And we love taking lawyers who are kind of struggling to find their way in the woods and help them get closer to having this high profit, low maintenance law firm that everybody dreams of. But more importantly than that is like the kind of place where you don't look forward to Friday afternoons and you don't dread showing up in the office on Monday morning. And that's kind of an amorphous thing to be selling, right? Because I'm not selling. I'll get you to 7 figures. I'll give you to 8 figures. I'll make you the CEO. I'll help you craft a place where you're happy to show up, right?
I think I saw you on LinkedIn put a video up. I watched it. I was like, I got to go back, and I studied my intake. I made a couple of modifications. My intakes went up 33%. I was like, there's always something this old dog can learn, man. I could always learn. Like you know,
I love that. I love that. And you didn't spend another marketing dollar, and you probably didn't hire anybody else.
I was always afraid or fear of saying I'm going to hire an intake person, right? So I had my paras, I have a pool set, and I got over that fear after listening to you talk about intake and the importance of dedicated intake. Actually, I hired your company for intake training. We hired Great Legal Marketing to train my intake team, and it's had a great impact. It really has had a great impact.
Our intake person has like smoothed out so much, and now
she's a machine.
Closely together to just track all of it, and it's worked.
She's a machine.
I can't even imagine not having one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to picture what it was and that I was afraid of it. Like, it's crazy, but you got me over the hump really quick. It's crazy.
I love that story. And so, I'm really big on knowing your numbers. And I think in intake, the most important numbers are of the people that are calling, how many of those cases do we want? And how do we define that, right? In a way that Tom doesn't have to go in and track it. How do I draw the box so that whoever's doing the intake can say, this one is squarely in the box, this one is outside. Okay, these 10% of cases I need to go ask a lawyer about, right? So how many of those cases that are calling do you actually want? And then of those that you want, how many are you getting? How many are signing a retainer for you? My view is a healthy amount is 75 to 80% of the ones that you want, you should be getting. Now, here's the ghost in that number is, how many people are calling your law firm or filling out a form on your website and you can never get back in touch with them because you didn't have a dedicated intake person? That's the number of cases you don't even know you're missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you just do the math on that and what's my average fee value,
Pays
the
for
intake
itself.
person pays for themselves.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. After hiring your company, that was the first thing we did was the math. They were like, okay, how many did you want? How many did you get? How many did you dropped off the map? And all you need to figure out is if you're losing 1 or 2 cases a month, and for every personal injury firm out there, you are, let me just tell you right now, you are.
Yeah.
And so if your average fee per file is $10,000, that's 20 grand a month, is 250 grand. Of course it pays for itself. So, hard-headed Italian, you had to walk me through the math. You did the math with me, and it was an easy decision, right? It was just an easy decision.
And I think you're doing this, but I'm a big proponent of having that person be in-house because I like if the phone rings and it's a good case that they can run screaming down the hallway to get a lawyer on the phone with somebody if they need to.
I just want to go to are there practical steps that a lawyer can make to their practice to enhance client service? Just give some takeaways for people listening to this, like what, empathy-driven customer service.
Whew. So the easy one is call your clients.
Oh boy, that's a good one.
Easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's because listen, what is the most common complaint about lawyers is they don't call me, right? Communication sucks. The case took longer than I thought it would. And then the third one I think is like expectation mismatch between what we thought was going to happen and then what the actual result is. And so if you can focus on narrowing those gaps, the primary thing, and it's hard to get younger people to do this, like pick up the phone.
I know.
Don't send an email.
Jules, write that down. Write that down, Juliet.
Don't send a text.
I know.
Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I think Marco Brown does this really well. That rule where every Friday he has the lawyers call all of the clients, right?
Yes.
And just check in. And even when there's not an update. So, one of the things that comes up in our little case peer tickler is every 30 days you have to have some kind of update, even if nothing has gone on. Hey, I just want you to know we didn't forget about you, right? We're waiting for this to happen over here. And as soon as it does, we're moving you on to the next step. So picking up the phone is, I think, an important one. Expectation setting is really important. And in injury cases, clients want to know that way too early, right? And what's my case worth? It's the first time I've ever talked to you. I have no idea what your case is worth.
Right.
But one of the things that we do is we send a written evaluation to the client before the demand goes to the insurance company. Just, hey, here's what I think it is. Just so you know, it's not like the insurance company offered you $25,000 and I think that's pretty good. Let's see if we can settle for $27,000.
Right.
Let me draw the circle first and see if they hit the target or not. So client expectations, communication. Yeah, I think those are the two big ones.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.